Daddy, like, here.
My name is Alex. I'm going to be y'all's boat driver this afternoon. If you have any questions, you guys can raise your hand or you can shout it out however you feel most comfortable to get my attention. We're just going to give Thomas, this boat over here, some time to get out of our way before we head out. Have any of you guys been here before? Here? Well, welcome and welcome back. As few of y'all have been here before. What you're looking at right now is called Spring Lake. It is the start of the San Marcos River. And the San Marcos River flows from right here down to the public part of the San Marcos River where you're free to swim and paddleboard and whatnot to your heart's content. Then that flows into the Blanco and then the Guadalupe and hits the Gulf of Mexico 264 miles from here. And we have currently about 50 million gallons of water a day coming out of all of these springs that make up our lake. And we're about half capacity due to the drought. So in a good year, we're looking at over 100 million gallons of water a day, and it takes about a week for the water you're seeing right now to end up in the Gulf. So it doesn't look fast right now, but this water is traveling quite quickly for how far it has to go. And it is coming out of springs, and that comes from the Edwards Aquifer. So down below our feet, actually only about a mile or two deep, is the Edwards Aquifer, and this is miles and miles of cave systems that span the Edwards Plateau, or most of central Texas. Now, in movies and probably many caves, we have seen, it's big enough for people to go walk through, they swim in them, and that is not what these caves are like. Think of a giant sponge made out of rock. It is tiny, tiny holes that the water is able to pass through, but very little else is. And those holes is what filters our water. As the water flows through it, these holes catch the big particles like dirt and debris and pollutants, cleaning our water, leaving two levels. We have our fresh water, which is really light, sitting on top, and the sludge of dirt and nastiness sitting at the bottom. And so that's what comes up through our springs is going to be that fresh water. And so our first stop on our tour today is going to be called Cream of Wheat. And it is an area, this whole stretch of wheat, and it is full of low-pressure springs. So underneath the glass, you're going to want to keep your eye out for little circular bubbles of sand. And inside these little circles is going to be bubbling and moving sand. And there's going to be these patches of lighter colors. Here we go, there's one up on the front end. I'm going to be moving over towards it. But usually Cream of Wheat will cover this entire area. But since it's low pressure, it varies heavily on the water flow. So days where it rains, we'll have lots of springs right here. And days and weeks that go by without any rain, we start to have less and less. So down below, you want to keep your eye out for those bubbles of sand. But these are not hot springs. These are actually lukewarm, little brisk springs at 72 degrees year-round. Now this water, if you were to go swim down there and put your hand over it, which is not allowed, unless you're one of our certified divers, it would feel like tap water. That's about the pressure that it comes out in, which is why it only makes the sand bubble. You don't see any really big effects. Versus our high-pressured springs, you're going to see these really deep craters in the bottom of our lake that are made by high-pressured springs, which have been compared to the power of a fire hydrant. So down below we got all these trees. And what you're actually looking at is the old shoreline. So before 1849, this was a free-flowing river. But in that year, President Burleson of an independent Texas came here and dammed up our lake right off the front of the boat where those trees make an arch. That is Kirby Lane Cafe, where the dam sits. And when he dammed it up, because we have so much water, it actually filled up the river into the lake you see now. And these trees have been left submerged underwater ever since. And we have so much calcium and other minerals. These boring rocks right here are a good place to see some turtles and some fish. But it is also home to two of our protected species here at the lake. We have the San Marcos salamander. It's an itty-bitty salamander that hides under these rocks. And then we have the fountain darter. The fountain darter looks very similar to a mud skipper. And that's an itty-bitty fish who uses its fins kind of like a seal or a walrus does when they're on land. They actually hobble on the rocks and push themselves. And we call them fountain darters because they'll go from fountain to fountain or spring to spring. And that's spring water like scuba divers down below us, aka our modern day mermaids. But I'll get to that story later on. Give you those guys with the bright green tanks down there. You're gonna feel your bubbles. You're gonna feel their bubbles on your feet as we pass over them. And these guys are lighter patches. Those are your springs. And what's interesting about the location of all of these is that it forms the Balcones fault line. The Balcones fault line actually connects the end of the Blackland Prairies, which is going to be over here to my right. But this fault line is where two land masses came together. See one with our naked eye. Does anyone have a guess on how old? You're probably correct, but it is hard to find any evidence of something from millions of years ago. Usually it's just a couple thousand. Even the dinosaurs have to suck up all the loose sand that was kicked up, like you saw with the divers, so that they were able to see what was happening while they were digging. So these guys were here. If you've ever seen people, they go out into from the Clovis people, first human inhabitants of North America. But they were able to see so much evidence of human life and all kinds of life here that they think this is one of the most persistent of a mile. And it will take you around our wetlands. And this is a shallow area, usually covered in water. It usually means a good sign of health. And since it's so shallow, it stops our gar and our large bass from going up and hang out. So if you take that boardwalk, you will see lots of little fish. You'll probably see some turtles. There might be some hunting birds out there. We have the great egret. It's this really large white bird. We've got a variety. So they went to bed quite some time ago and won't wake up probably until 9 or 10. But you can see where they live, and you can come back out those turtles. Yeah, that was a turtle. That was a Texas river cooter with those yellow and green stripes. And I didn't stop for him because there's so many turtles in our lake. We're gonna see plenty more. I promise y'all. We're actually heading up here. We have the Texas river cooter, which you guys just saw. And then we have the red-eared slider. And those are the two most common types we're going to see here in San Marcos and all of our water systems. But we also have this itty-bitty turtle. It's about the size of an avocado, and it is called the musk turtle. And the musk turtle, given its name, is a very, very stinky turtle. When it feels endangered, it'll actually secrete, it will secrete this really stinky, smelly stuff, just like a skunk and many other animals do. To keep predators from are huge. They can be as big as this steering wheel here. And they have that scaly tail and spikes on their shells. A lot of people think they're alligator snapping turtles, but they are just in fact the common snapping turtle.
Okay, down.
The last really important endangered animal that aquifer below in the caves is only about 3 inches big. And living in these pitch black dark caves, can anyone guess what color he would be? Pink. This would be these logs and branches out here full of turtles. You'll also see some of them hiding in this detritus and duckweed, which is going to be that plant at the top.
Let's go see the turtle. Look, hurry.
You go see?
Let's see the turtle.
It's actually used to be called Ocarina Springs, and if you drove here coming off the access road, it's called Ocarina Springs Drive. And it is a very popular name here because it was the first amusement park in Texas. You like going to Schlitterbahn, or any of those places where you can scream your heart out, you probably find Ocarina Springs pretty boring. Because this amusement park was just about amusement and entertaining its guests with a theatrical show. Because when they are in their breeding season, they grow extra feathers, breeding plumage, and these guys, in the right lighting, have a slightly green iridescent full of sand and rocks. Filter out the insects.